Welcome back to New Rockstars, I'm Erik Voss, and as we look ahead to the Loki finale, who the hell is in that castle at the end of time? Who created the TVA and its timekeeper robots? And are we guaranteed to be Ralph Bonered yet again?
Boner.
Well, I wanted to make my best arguments for and against all top 8 suspects, so that hopefully we can all go into this finale more open-minded for the possibilities, rather than clinging to one expectation that some might base their enjoyment of this whole show on the validity of. Look folks, Kang and Mephisto might heat up a party, but you don't need them for an enjoyable night of tabletop gaming. I think I know what that means. Well, let's start with suspect number 1, Kang the Conqueror, aka Immortus, aka Nathaniel Richards, aka the Pharaoh Rama Tut. How many of these are there? Aka Mr. Gryphon, head of King Enterprises, the company that overtakes Stark Tower in the comics, and the latest Loki Easter egg pointing in the direction of Kang. Now, many skeptical viewers are comparing Kang to Mephisto in WandaVision, just another goofy big bad from the comics that nerds are making mountains out of Easter egg molehills to justify. I mean, that could be the case, but the truth is there are far more clues pointing to Kang's arrival than we ever had for Mephisto. With Mephisto, our evidence was cryptic mentions of devils and demon spawns, satanic imagery, and parallels to a comic storyline in which Mephisto was the villain behind it all. But by episode 7 of the show, the series revealed it was Agatha all along. But with Loki, very different situation. Headed into the finale, we do not have an Agatha all along yet. There's still some man behind the curtain. And unlike Mephisto, Kang the Conqueror has been confirmed and cast in the MCU. And spoiler warning for Black Widow, seriously, if you haven't seen it, skip the next 10 seconds or so. Marvel Studios just proved it's not afraid to introduce big names first on Disney Plus shows, with mystery woman Val appearing on The Falcon the Winter Soldier before her cameo now in Black Widow. Also, of all the TVA judges in the comics they could have chosen, the writers picked Ravonna Rentslayer, arguably best known as Kang's romantic interest. Similarly, Alioth. The writers could have made up a smoke monster or picked any number of lesser beasts from Marvel lore, and they chose the one best known for threatening Kang's temporal empire. The Void's possession of the pyramids and the Sphinx mirrors the historical trophies Kang keeps in his Chronopolis kingdom. The central timekeeper that the cinematography keeps focusing on looks like an android Kang could have made in his own image. Kang Prime in the comics does reside at the end of time where this citadel is located, and Loki is a time travel series. Kang is Marvel's ultimate time travel villain. It just lines up. Now, if the Void is made up of things that the TVA pruned, and if Kang were running the TVA, why would they prune things from a Kang-dominated timeline? Well, if the TVA is all Kang's machinery, the Void's true purpose could be to collect things that Kang actually wants, and Alioth could be the snake in his garden that Kang needed Sylvie to slay. Or Kang could be a TVA prisoner kept in solitary confinement, and Alioth was keeping him there. Look, it might not be Kang, but anyone who says that it's definitely not Kang is either dismissing a very likely possibility for just being too obvious to them, kind of like what Mobius said.
It's always the game within the game with you guys, which I respect.
Or people are just afraid of looking wrong after Mephisto, to which I say, if you like this stuff this much, being right isn't gonna make you cool, so just be the greater fool and own it. And that brings us to suspect 2, King Loki. Trailer footage, shot still yet to be shown on the series, show a smug Loki on the throne of Asgard, and another shot shows Loki back in Stark Tower redoing the events of the Battle of New York.
Glorious.
We know the TVA targets Lokis in particular, and since this show is about Loki variants, it would make sense for the man behind the curtain to be some alpha Loki who created the TVA in order to erase all other variant competitors to his rule, and one who would represent the darkest parts of Loki's soul that our protagonist has been battling internally. Now, you could also say this might contradict the trajectory the series has been following, right? Like, each episode introduces us to increasingly diverse Loki variants, each with a different face, from a female to an old man to a kid to a reptile. So to pull back the final curtain just to reveal the face of Tom Hiddleston again? I mean, I don't know. Loki just did that in episode 5, opening the hatch to President Loki, and then shortly after, the show turned him into a kind of a joke. So it might seem like a step backward to reveal yet another Tom Hiddleston Loki, but evil this time, even though we spent 2.5 movies with that version of the character already. Folks, these trailer shots could just be visions of a hypothetical timeline storyline in which Loki rules as king, illusions conjured by whoever is behind the curtain to try to tempt Loki. Now, just to cover our bases, we could look at suspect number 3, Mobius, with his perceived inconsistencies of not remembering leaving ring stains, not remembering an alligator Loki, as a sign that there could be some other Mobius variant, or Mobius could be a Loki variant. But it does seem like Owen Wilson was cast on this show to be a foil to Loki, not to be some maniacal, crazy big bad. He seems like he's there to represent the aw shucks innocence of the TVA workforce, and of course to ride a jet ski. Really, for it to matter that some characters are Loki variants, a lot of the other characters must not be Loki variants. There's only so many times you can play that card. Similarly, suspect number 4, Rentslayer, already has a role to play in uncovering this mystery. So to reveal a Rentslayer variant behind the curtain might muddy the current Rentslayer arc and set up a weird Rentslayer versus Rentslayer conflict. Is that how we want the show to end? Now, if you like what we do here at New Rockstars, one of the best ways you can support that content and help us do more is to grab some cool swag from NewRockstarsMerch.com. Our partners at Epic Hero Shop have put together a full lineup of really cool gear: shirts, hats, hoodies, water bottles, all kinds of stuff to make your friends, your family, co-workers, fellow Arby's diners jealous. We also have our limited edition Black Widow inspired Latest Obsession shirt, a kind of play on the classic Hourglass logo. Super limited supply. We got another Black Widow shirt design you might like, as well as some Loki designs like the Gator Loki polo shirt and the Loki Out of Time tee that I'm wearing. The supply is limited, so you gotta act fast. We've already sold out of the XL in green and a bunch of the red sizes, but when you buy a Latest Obsession shirt, you unlock the ability to leave a shout out that will appear on screen during our weekly Inside Marvel episodes. And you can finally tell Grandma how much you care via a YouTube video. The Epic Hero Shop has a massive all-original Loki collection with other shirt designs, stickers, even a Miss Minutes wall clock. Check it out and all of the other merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com. You'll be helping our channel while also earning major nerd cred. Now, there is suspect number 5, Casey, not seen since episode 2, and some are saying the name Casey is a clue. K-C. Kang the Conqueror. I'm sorry, I'm gonna pass on that one. But suspect number 6, Miss Minutes, is worth considering because we still don't know what she is. Like, she can transcend both digital screens and real space, and she is close enough to the heart of the TVA to access confidential records and lie on behalf of it. And Tara Strong teased that there's so much more to be revealed and that you don't really know who she is, where she's from, what her origin story is, how sentient she is. Miss Minutes could be the public face of whoever is controlling the TVA, and Sylvie's vision glided up to that lit tower and stopped at its golden glow, maybe connected to the color of Miss Minutes. And in this case, the one controlling the TVA might be no one. And it's all part of some self-perpetuating clockwork with mechanized puppet authorities. But what threw me was the way these android timekeepers laughed when Sylvie decapitated one of them. Pretty weird response. I read that as some maniacal puppet master who might have even wanted Loki and Sylvie to make this discovery. And that brings us to suspect number 7, Dr. Doom, whom some are connecting to the European-looking castle, the androids they say being similar to Doom bots, and the possibility that sorcery could have been used to enchant the TVA to block out the other forms of magic. But unlike Kang, Doom has not yet been cast or even confirmed for the MCU. He's coming someday, but probably not in the next few years. I think the people who are pushing for Dr. Doom are just comic readers who find Kang too confusing. But in my breakdown, I brought up suspect number 8, Classic Loki, suggesting that he might have faked his death with Alioth, similar to the way he confessed to faking his death with Thanos. I like this better than King Loki because it still checks those boxes of Loki facing an alpha variant of himself while letting Richard E. Grant continue to shine. Think about it, Classic Loki is insanely powerful. He casts complex duplicates, creating teleportation portals, conjuring a full Asgard Emerald City illusion, and in his final seconds, as he was wiped away by Alioth, he let his green magic fade from his hands, and he was laughing in glee, and notice how his cape seemed to dematerialize before Alioth got to him. I'm definitely getting some vibes of Obi-Wan surrendering to Vader to become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And Classic Loki had that interesting response to Mobius earlier.
So just like that, you're turning on the very thing you devoted your life to.
It's never too late to change.
It's just hard to tell with him because Grant is so good an actor. He released that single tear as light and wind pounded his face, which could have been him accepting his fate or feeling a kind of excitement for a different long-awaited release. Now you may be asking, why would Classic Loki slum it in the void if he was really running the TVA from that castle beyond? Well, if we're really going by the man behind the curtain logic, Classic Loki's theatrical costume could be a duplicate illusion that the real old man was conjuring from that castle beyond. Maybe the only thing that can subdue Alioth is enchantment, the one form of sorcery that he does not appear to have, because unlike Loki L1130 and Sylvie, he never had a connection with another. He lived his whole life alone on a remote planet. That could be why he wanted Sylvie and Loki to come here, why the Timekeepers laughed, why Lokis have been targeted. I think whoever is the man behind the curtain, one safe bet is that they will refer to themselves as He Who Remains. That's the title of the elderly TVA agent at the end of time who engineers the Timekeepers. And I say that because really any of these suspects could be He Who Remains, or He Who Remains might just be a completely new face, or even just a note left by a guy named He Who Remains on a Miss Minute's wall clock connected to a bunch of cogs and levers, reading, "Out to lunch, see you in a minute." And based on all of the evidence, folks, it's just hard not to imagine that whoever it is, if it's not Kang, it must have been someone who created the TVA at the behest of or in response to Kang. Like, even if Kang is reduced to a post-credit cameo or no sighting at all, his fingerprints are all over the series, and we're not talking devils in the details. These are intentional clues. So if you are still in the Kang gang after all this, I will be there with you, because Mephisto's getting lonely in my daily mentions. So where am I at? I guess I'll say classic Loki, He Who Remains, and a rivalry against Kang with Miss Minutes as his automated assistant. But I'm not betting the house on that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow and subscribe to New Rockstars. This is my final Loki theory video before the finale, so I will see all of you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Bye.